ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to one Akata Nation News Hour with Soulaan's number one edutainer, Petty Murphy, here reporting to you live from the back of the classroom at Foundational Black America's number one source for edutainment, Akata News Network. So today, I've got a little message from this guy.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
Calm down, Petty, calm down. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is just show you a few clips, and then we'll be right back. And with that, breaking news.
Go back to Joe Biden demanding that we strike narco boats back in 1989.
For the first time, we are fighting and losing a war on our own soil. Let's go after the drug lords where they live with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco terrorists, and they must know it.
You see, it's only because Trump's doing it that they have a problem. Go back to
This is the Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act of 1986, authored by a member of Congress in 1986 from the state of New York. His name, Chuck Schumer. He wrote the law that passed almost unanimously that makes it legal to blow drug boats out of the water. It happened in the 80s a lot, in the 90s a lot. Go ahead, look it up, folks. Chuck Schumer, the author of this bill that made what we're doing with Venezuelan drug boats fully legal. We don't need permission from the rest of the world. Chuck Schumer gave us that in 1986. This in front of me?
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record.
At this midnight basketball and getting them together, a bunch of jive folks try to see if they can be Michael Jordan. When they found out, they were keeping schools open. So gangs come off streets instead of out raping my mother, marauding me, robbing the local store. They're in a gymnasium. And my daughter will be safer, my wife will be safer, my mother will be safer, and I will be safer. And I will be happy.
Welcome back after those brief clips, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's actually odd to me. I don't think people actually pay attention or read the room or understand that history repeats itself. And what else is funny is that that same gentleman there, I think he was the same one that wrote the crime bill that's caused, what do they call it? Mass incarceration rates of our people. Yet for some reason, a large population of us still seem to support him in that party, but never mind. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually going to get out to the field studio, rather, with our one and only Nap Turner, as he does an expose today on why he truly believes that what's going on now in Venezuela has nothing to do with oil, but everything to do with something else preparing us for World War III. And with that, we say, breaking news. What's cracking? So you already know what it is. As I always say, it ain't nothing new under the sun. So in one of the previous videos, I had actually made a statement about everything that's going on right now, geopolitically, and the chain of events that's happened with Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro. So I'm actually circling the block, and I actually got a couple of video clips that I want to get into right now. We'll watch those. I'll spin the block, and then we're going to rap about it, and then we'll just go from there.
Why should Maduro take your threats seriously? And
he can do whatever he wants.
What's your end game?
Maduro?
What's your end game?
There's no answer. He can do whatever he wants. I mean, we have a massive armada formed, the biggest we've ever had, and by far the biggest we've ever had in South America. He can do whatever he wants. It's all right. Whatever he wants to do. If he wants to do something, if he plays tough, it'll be the last time he's ever able to play tough.
Y después yo me quedé reflexivo, ¿no? Y he estado reflexionando en los últimos días las agresiones ilegales que ha habido. Y pienso que el presidente Trump lo pudiera hacer mejor en su país y en el mundo. Le iría mejor, ¿verdad? Dentro de su país, con los temas económicos, sociales. Le iría mejor con el mundo si él atendiera los temas de su país. Cada presidente en lo suyo, atender los temas de su país. Porque no puede ser que él atienda el 70% de sus discursos y declaraciones y el tiempo es Venezuela. Y Estados Unidos, y los pobres de Estados Unidos, los que necesitan vivienda y los empleos que hay que crear. Que cada quien atienda a su país. Y de verdad, si vuelvo a hablar con él, se lo voy a decir. Que cada quien atienda sus asuntos internos.
Señor cobarde, no se meta con el hombre de a pie. Venga por mí. Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
We never believe that any country can act as the world's police, nor do we accept that any country can claim to be an international judge. The sovereignty and security of all countries should be fully protected by international law. China has always opposed the use or threat of force in international relations and opposes imposing one country's will on another. China is willing to work together with the international community, including Pakistan, to firmly uphold the UN Charter, safeguard the bottom line of international morality, uphold the sovereign equality of all countries, jointly maintain world peace and development, and jointly promote the building of a community with a shared future for mankind.
Seized a pair of sanctioned oil tankers. This is video of one of those seizures. This was in the Caribbean early this morning. The second seizure was a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the Atlantic.
Well, the Coast Guard began pursuing the vessel near Venezuela last month. NBC's Alice Barr has more details.
We're tracking these developments as the U.S. has now seized another oil tanker, this time in the Atlantic, part of a blockade on sanctioned oil going in and out of Venezuela. The U.S. Coast Guard initially pursued this tanker off Venezuela's coast last month, setting off a weeks-long high seas chase. And it's one of a number of tankers operating in the area that recently changed their flags to Russia, a key Venezuelan ally. The Trump administration has been arguing that taking over Venezuela's oil industry hurts its allies as well. Russia, China, Iran, all American adversaries, with questions, of course, about how those countries will respond. Lots of questions coming from Capitol Hill today, where all lawmakers get the classified briefing they've been clamoring for since the U.S. captured and removed Venezuelan authoritarian leader Nicolas Maduro to stand trial on drug charges in the U.S. Many Democrats are questioning that motivation as President Trump ramps up focus on Venezuelan oil. The president also announcing that Venezuela will turn over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. to be sold at market price, and that President Trump would control the profits to benefit the people of both countries. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
President Barack Obama declared Venezuela a national security threat and signed an executive order approving new sanctions against the country. In a fiery 2-hour speech, Maduro called it proof that Washington wants to topple his government.
President Obama will be remembered in the future for this decision and his aggression against the Venezuelan people, the noble people, because the people of Venezuela are a peaceful people. President Obama, you don't have the right to attack, nor to declare that Venezuela is a threat to the people of the United States. You are the threat to the people of the United States.
Obama's executive order targets 7 Venezuelan government officials for alleged human rights abuses relating to the crackdown of anti-government protests last year and the recent arrest of high-profile opposition.
The problem that we are seeing right now is that our current president and his administration is explicitly saying that we want to change the rules of the game midstream in order to insulate ourselves from the people's judgment. They want to change around the maps, not the way it's always been done every 10 years after a census. They want to do it before any election in which they're worried they might lose.
Yeah. It's gonna be legendary right here, man. Let's get it. Word. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. I'm just here to bring the facts. I'm not worried about your feelings. Since the way that y'all react, it goes way beyond.
Venezuela's president is asking for special powers from Parliament in response to new U.S. sanctions. CCTV's Mark Markovitz has more on Nicolas Maduro's reaction to the growing friction with Washington.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro lashed out at the U.S. after President Barack Obama declared Venezuela a national security threat and signed an executive order approving new sanctions against the country. In a fiery 2-hour speech, Maduro called it proof that Washington wants to topple his government.
President Obama will be remembered in the future for this decision and his aggression against the Venezuelan people, the noble people, because the people of Venezuela are a peaceful people. President Obama, you don't have the right to attack, nor to declare that Venezuela is a threat to the people of the United States. You are the threat to the people of the United States.
Obama's executive order targets 7 Venezuelan government officials for alleged human rights abuses relating to the crackdown of anti-government protests.
Back, we on it. So, it's a lot to unpack here. I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as possible. Now, by no means did I go to school for any of this, but I pay attention to patterns and I understand that history repeats itself. It always repeats itself. I mean, it's almost like a math equation, right? The equation is always the same. The only thing that changes is the variables. So as long as you can memorize the equation, you can always work out the problem. That being said, Manuel Noriega, Panama Canal. So anyways, message. With everything that's going on right now, I personally don't think that it's about the oil. I know everyone's saying that it's about the oil, and I'm not saying that the oil doesn't have something to do with it. But if you take and pay attention to what we all went through over the last 4 years, or during the last administration, we spent a lot of money, one, on illegal immigrants for clothing, housing, food. Now we see the fraud that's been going on for years in Minnesota. So one, he's trying to recoup the money. Now, the type of oil that Venezuela has needs a specific type of machinery in order to process that heavy crude oil that they have, which was originally, they were given the money back in like the 60s and 70s for this stuff from America. And then things went sideways and we ended up where we're at now. But up to this point now, when you fast forward, why I personally don't believe that it's about oil. If you pay attention, in the last few years, a group of nations have been working really, really hard to build relations with Nicolas Maduro and Venezuela. And the energy has been reciprocated. Now, you got Brazil, Russia, India, Iran, China, just to name a few, right? But these nations themselves came to be known as the Brics nations. Now, if y'all remember, this was maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. They were all talking about using the continent of Africa and the resources, the diamond, the oil, the iridium, gold, all the resources under the feet of the people of the 54 African nations. And they were going to use that to create a currency, which would have been called Brics. Now, when they first started talking about the Brics nations dollar, it was going to basically destroy the US dollar, because for years, basically all global business has been done pretty much like oil futures, right? So the oil futures are based on the petrodollar. So all global trading is done through the petrodollar. Well, it ain't like back when our parents was coming up and America made a whole lot of things and everything said made on America, and we are no longer producers of anything. All we are now is consumers, and we're basically leveraging everyone else's credit, hitting them with interest on top of the credit because they're using the petrodollar to keep us afloat. That's why he started running with the tariffs and shit. But I don't think a lot of people actually understand or really realize how our economy works. Just even like a basic understanding, because I have a very, very basic understanding. I'm not trying to sit here and act like I know it all. No, by no means I don't. But again, I pay attention. So all of that being said, we're going to stop and we're going to look at one brief last little clip. But I'm going to drop all the links in the description so that you can go back for yourself and actually look at these things and do your own deep dive instead of just taking my word for it. Because by no means will I ever want anyone listening to what I say and taking it to heart. I actually want people to go out and do their own due diligence. Because once you put your eyes on these things and you start reading it and getting to know and understand or overstand and understand what it really is, this shit totally hits different. But yeah, we're going to watch this last clip and then I'll circle back.
This is a story about how the world's most powerful, richest country is slowly losing its influence.
And it's evident here.
We can see across Brazil, thousands of Ford cars almost disappear.
Meanwhile, China's BYD is becoming increasingly common.
Ford left a plant abandoned. BYD, they modernized the plant. They are now producing electric cars from Brazil.
It's evidence of the growing connection between Brazil and China, the B and the C of the BRICS Plus coalition. This is a group that hopes to rival the US-led G7.
The most important emerging economies in the world are the 4 BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, and China.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
This mantra,
America first,
has created an opening.
The trade war increased the solidarity between BRICS nations. The BRICS are now emerging as really the only global forum that can stand up to Trump's trade war.
They want a multipolar world in which there are multiple centers of geopolitical influence.
But can these countries unite to become a meaningful global force?
Yeah, so that was just a brief introductory to that video, which I said the link will be in the description. But it basically gives you a breakdown of the actual BRICS nations, who they are, what the end game is, and what their overall goal is. So when you hear that Venezuelan oil tankers started dropping the Venezuelan flags after Nicolas Maduro was taken into custody by the United States of America and started raising the Russian flag, well, now when you start doing things like this, it can be taken or looked at as a provocation or an act of war. So me personally, if y'all remember, over the summer, Europe was telling its citizens to start stockpiling and preparing for war because they believed that war was imminent, even possible global war. But we never really heard that from the media here in the United States. I personally, this feels like looks like a proxy war that's going on. And you know, you have many different types. It's like they say, 1,000,001 ways to skin a cat. Well, it's the same thing with war or acts of violence. You know, you can do economic war, propaganda, psychological warfare, or just straight up boots on the ground in hot war. I personally feel like the war is hot. They just haven't announced it yet. We went from a Cold War and using sanctions and things of this nature to keep our adversaries in check. Well, now it went from a dick measuring contest to let's see who got the biggest hammer. And how this is going to play out in, I don't know. But I'll definitely be staying tuned. And hey, what do you all think about this? Does anyone else see what I see, or am I just out here tweaking and looking for a reason? I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Again, I thank everybody for their time and sharing your light with me. And for those that are actually watching and liking, commenting, and subscribing, I really appreciate it. I actually never thought I'd be doing this shit, really taking it serious, but I ain't got nothing but time right now. But on that note, I'm gonna slide up out of here. Y'all remember, realize, transparency forces accountability. Y'all keep your eyes to the stars and keep that head on a swivel. And remember, it's a dirty game. Welcome back to the Plantation Studios, ladies and gentlemen. Let's all give a round of applause and a big thank you to Akata News Network's one and only Nap Turner for that wonderful expose. You know, it's actually kind of mind-boggling, ladies and gentlemen, how we did not see this coming. It seems like Obama tried and he failed. And what I find utterly odd is that when one did it, the country applauded. But now when another one's doing it, everyone's got the stank face. Hypocrites. Ooh, calm down, Petty, calm down. Yes, but that's going to be our program for the day. We thank you all for tuning in, and we wish you all a prosperous and safe new year. Again, we'll be signing out. It is your one, your only, Petty Murphy, here reporting to you live from the back of the classroom at Akata News Network.
And this right here is the actual problem, ladies and gentlemen. If the BRICS nation's currency was to go live right now, it would take $28.83 to make one BRICS dollar, which means that overnight, the United States of America will get knocked back to the Stone Age and will become a third world country.